So today, what if overwhelm was never the problem? And I guess it can really look like overwhelm is a problem to solve. And I guess that probably makes us feel just a little more overwhelmed. I know it did for me. And what I'm here to say today is that overwhelm isn't really the problem, it's our relationship with overwhelm. I'm not quite there, but I'm almost at the place where I can experience overwhelm from a place of curiosity. It's taken a while and it's taken me, I guess, watching content like this video over the years and listening to all sorts of things and spending time in conversations with coaches and things like that, to the point where when I feel that feeling of overwhelm now, I just find myself thinking, oh, that's interesting. What is on my mind right now? And I was chatting to a lovely friend and I guess colleague of mine the other day, Lexi Bebington. Look her up, she's quite phenomenal actually. And we were talking about how as we begin to feel overwhelmed and therefore stressed, let's be honest, when we start to feel overwhelmed, we feel stressed, don't we? It's a part of that stress makeup, I suppose. But that when we do that, we start to breathe up here in the top of our chest. And that messes with our neuro system. Not quite sure. It messes with our system. And our system starts to think, our system believes that we're under stress. And that means that our very wonderful prefrontal cortex, probably access to the right side of the brain and connection to wisdom, I suppose is how we might say it in a spiritual conversation, gets really shut down. And we end up in our heads trying to solve. And I think that's what overwhelm can often lead to. We feel that feeling, for me, overwhelm actually does feel like a tightness up here in my chest, interestingly. And that's a sign that I've got a very busy mind. I know that now. And overwhelm for me is letting me know that I'm overthinking. It's got nothing to do with how many things I've got to do or could do. I'm self-employed. I'm deciding what I do. But how easy is it to feel overwhelmed even when there's not somebody else giving you things to do and you've kind of got some choice? And I guess I've been like that for many, many years, because even as a head teacher 10 years ago and became a head teacher sort of 5 years prior to that, so for maybe over 15 years, I've had a lot of ability to choose what I do on a day-to-day basis. Yes, there are things that would make my school more successful, things that make my business more successful, but we're not really, we're setting out those things to do, aren't we? And then we're getting overwhelmed about them. But let's go back to the feeling in the body, because I've got distracted like I sometimes do in these videos. The tightness in the chest now for me is just an indication that I've got a lot on my mind. So how do we sort of move forward from there? It is first of all to see that that's not a problem. Overwhelm is not a problem. It never was a problem. It was always a signal from your very clever system to let you know that you're thinking. Like, what that looks like for me is waking up in the morning and thinking about all the things that I could do today, all the things on my list. I use a tool called Asana. There are many other tools you can use to keep your list. You might just like paper and pen. Doesn't really matter. I used to think that mattered. I used to think it was the tool I was using, and I would spend much of my time moving my jobs from different tools and then back onto paper and then onto another electronic tool and back. And that was another way I thought I could solve the overwhelm, by having it somehow listed differently. So we feel, I start thinking about that list of things that's on Asana for me. And I'm doing that when I'm getting ready in the morning. Even in this tiny space, I'm in my motorhome at the moment, I can get like really, really stirred up. And now I notice it. And again, back to the beginning, I feel curious. Oh, hello, there you are, feeling of overwhelm. And I've noticed more and more, and this is what came out in the conversation with my friend Lexi, was that if I breathe deep down into my body and I pause, I just think pausing, slowing the chuff down in our lives is literally life-changing. Just not going to the next thing. I was chatting to my fiance the other day about my phone and how, it's there. I can see it just down there, and how often during the day I just think, oh, I'll just pick up my phone. And I'm noticing that if I pause and I breathe, I don't really need to pick up my phone. My phone would have been a thing I would reach for in the past when I did feel overwhelmed. Because the thing is, when we feel overwhelmed, we think, oh, avoidance of tasks. Let's avoid tasks, because if we avoid the task, we won't feel this overwhelmed feeling. But it's not coming from the tasks. And there's a horrible loop there, isn't there? So I think about my tasks. My thinking creates the overwhelm. I don't do my tasks. And then I think about my tasks the next day, and I haven't crossed any of them off the previous day. So yeah, there's even more to think about now. And that goes round and round. And I remember being in that cycle. And I think there's a couple of circuit breakers for that. The first one is the pause, pausing instead of panicking. This feeling of overwhelm, the tightness, the breathing up here is panic. And as soon as you start breathing that way, your body starts to panic. And then you can't think straight. But when you breathe and you give yourself a moment, just breathe now. Just breathe now. Breathe right down into your body. Notice if you're breathing. Notice if you're breathing up here. All this is about is awareness of what's happening right now. Overwhelm isn't a problem. It's a beautiful gift from your system. So we pause. We breathe. We feel what's there in a curious way, like, hi, you're there. Okay, you're there. My mind's a bit, stirred up right now. We know that's why that feeling's there. We breathe and feel it. And we see that the problem was never overwhelm. And the problem isn't the list of things. The problem is how we're looking at them right now. I felt it a little bit before this video. I've got, things to do today and videos to make and, turning up and doing lives and all that. I've got these things that are like there. And then I breathed and I made a video. And this is what happens when you listen to your body instead of fighting it. When we think overwhelm's a problem, we start to fight, don't we? We start to fight against the feeling. How can I get rid of that feeling? Like I mentioned, we might pick up our phone, we might procrastinate in some other way. I sometimes make kombucha, although kombucha is great. But perhaps making it when I'm got things to do in my business is not great so much. So we slow down. We pause instead of panic. We breathe. We just breathe. My goodness, how little do we just breathe? That feeling of overwhelm is just a signal to point us home. And when we do all of that, when we breathe, when we pause, when we slow down, the clarity that comes, and then overwhelm doesn't become a stress source. It becomes a clarity source, because it's how we relate to the overwhelm that's the issue. It's our relationship when it shows up. It isn't the problem. Overwhelm was never the problem. If you are interested in exploring this more, you know where I am. Take care. Lots of love, and I'll hopefully see you again very, very soon.